Let us start with a little disclaimer. I am not a professional and I cannot give you professional advice on how to cure drug addiction. I have never been on that side. I have never done any kind of drugs and I've never been on that side of the situation. However, I have been on the other side. I have had to deal with a lot of people who have been addicted to drugs over the years, and this is not only a drug addicted teen, but sometimes people who are well into their adulthood. And after carefully analyzing the whole situation and based on my personal experiences, this is what I have come up with. Now, I had taken psychology for 2 years in my JC, and I don't have a bachelor's or a master's degree in it, but that is how I was introduced to this whole topic of drug addiction and how it is a way of life for so many teens these days. And this video is thoroughly research backed. Like, I started doing my research on this topic about 3 years ago, and it has led me here. The whole video is completely research backed. Nothing that I mentioned in this video, not even a single point, is something I made up along the way or just wrote out of the blue. Each and every point is research backed, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, the things mentioned in this video won't cure your teen completely. There is a lot more that goes into this. It requires extensive hours of therapy and sometimes even rehab if the addiction is too big, and I am not qualified to give this kind of advice, so we will be only sticking to the basics. Everything that is mentioned in the title, the basics, the beginning stages, is what we will be focusing on today. So now, coming to the most important part when it comes to drug addiction is understanding the why. Why do people use drugs when they know it is bad for them? Once you have a deeper understanding of why people use drugs, it becomes much easier to deal with a drug addicted person. Now, addiction is not a sign that you are a bad person. Let's get that out of the way. We always tend to assume whenever we come to know someone is taking drugs, we automatically start assuming that they are bad kids and they are doing so because they are rebellious and want to lash out. That is not always the reason. It might be sometimes, but that is just a small percentage out of the total, and we need to stop assuming. We need to put ourselves in their shoes and imagine and think and experience things as how they think and how they experience things. That is how you can help them. Tough love doesn't work. You need to make them feel safe, to make them feel included. They need to be comfortable around you. That is how you can eventually help them. Otherwise, they are just going to drift away. Now, there are a number of reasons as to why teenagers abuse drugs. Here are the major ones. When they are unhappy and can't find a decent outlet to let go of that unhappiness, they turn to drugs as a form of escape. And when they are feeling disappointed or dejected or maybe even depressed, they turn to drugs in order to forget what they are going through and feel happier. The rough teenage years can take an emotional toll on the children, which leads them to depression. And in order to not feel depressed, to feel better about themselves, they take these drugs because they cannot resist the opportunity of maybe feeling better. Quite a few teens are turning to drugs because they are bored and simply have nothing to do and have no deeper interests whatsoever. They see it as a pastime waiting to be explored, and they cannot tolerate this loneliness. They always crave for certain kind of excitement which they find in drugs. Now, alcohol and weed not only give them something to do, but they also fill up that internal void that they feel. One way to cope with this would definitely be giving your child some work to do, always trying to keep them busy or spend time with your child. That is the most important. And give them some extracurricular activities to do, give them some responsibilities, so they will be busy, and when they are free, their mind won't rush to drugs. Curiosity is a natural part of life, and teenagers are not immune to the urge. So many teens begin experimenting with drugs just because they are curious and want to know what it feels like once you've taken drugs. As teenagers, they have the delusion that they are invincible, and even though they know drugs are bad, they don't ever think that anything bad will ever happen to them. So you could start by educating your child about the repercussions of drug use, and maybe that will help extinguish their curiosity. During high school, a lot of teenagers are overburdened with an extremely packed schedule of academics and extracurriculars, and this causes a lot of stress. A lack of coping skills can lead them to turn to artificial methods of coping up. For example, they could turn to drugs like weed in order to calm their nerves or to relax. In teenagers, especially between the ages 14 to 18, there is a lot of self-esteem issues, whether it is with regards to your physical appearance or even maybe a lack of friends, which in turn leads to self-destructive behavior. High school bullies, the media, and even your own family and friends for that matter put a lot of pressure on you to act a certain way and to look a certain way, and that can seem very stressful, and you lose confidence within yourself, and that is when so many teens turn to drugs as a way to escape reality. FOMO, the fear of missing out. So many teens are going through this now, and it has kind of become like a disorder, I would like to say. Teens often feel the need to enjoy their teenage life and do crazy things because it is believed that after your teenage, you won't get time to enjoy. You will be burdened with responsibilities, you will be burdened with your job, you will have your own family to take care of. So you have to enjoy your time when you are a teenager, and drugs are considered as a way of enjoyment, and you have to do them now or you will never get the chance to do so. Now you start by trying once, and then you're like, एक बार किया और एक बार कर सकते हैं, we won't get addicted, I am smart, and then you do it again and again and again till it becomes an addiction and you won't even realize it. Drugs and alcohol work super quickly and their initial effects feel really good. Now teenagers these days are so lonely and devoid of happiness that they turn to such drugs to feel happy instantly. It's like their shortcut to happiness. Last but not the least, a parental favorite. Always blame your child's wrongdoings on the friends. Peer pressure is one of the most common reasons teenagers turn to drugs. They all learn about it, they all think it won't happen to them, and they all think they are so smart that their friends won't manipulate them, but they all go through it. And yes, peer pressure is a classic example of why teenagers do drugs. This peer pressure happens between the ages of 14 to 18, and it is very common, and we have heard our parents saying this so many times, if everybody will jump off the bridge, you will also jump off kya? But and we say no, we are smart, we won't, and yes, we still give in to what our friends are doing, and you start thinking ki everybody is doing it, why shouldn't I do it? And you do it, and it is like a way of you coping up with the fact that you want to fit in, you don't want to stand out, you don't want to stand alone in a crowd full of people, so you might as well do it and get done with it. Now that you have understood why your teen or your loved one is abusing drugs, it becomes much more easier to deal with them. The best way is to just start a conversation with them. Yet research shows that 1 in every 5 parents do not intervene in order to prevent further drug use, which is really sad and really shocking, because it is the best way, and if you don't talk about it, your child is going to feel you don't care about them, and they are going to continue doing it to a point where there's no turning back. As I mentioned earlier, the best way to get a teen to communicate is by asking compassionate, considerate questions. Yet most of us tend to overreact and mistreat them, which leads them to go astray. So here are a few mistakes that we as friends and family make when dealing with a drug addicted teen, and here are also a few solutions that could help you cope up with such a person and help you have that necessary conversation with them. Mistake number one is forbidding or being too strict. Now, this usually happens in the initial stages when you don't have any concrete proof and you are just speculating. Let's understand this with the help of an example. Suppose your child hangs out with a particular friend and you don't like that friend because you have heard things about him or her, and you go ahead and tell your child, don't hang out with this person, and just don't give any reasons, just say that person is bad for you. Chances are your child is going to hang out with that person every second of every day. You can even take this as rule number one of parenting. Don't ever forbid your child from doing anything, because chances are they are going to do that very thing right in front of your face. So yeah, don't ever forbid anything, especially when you don't have any reason to back it up, or you're just doing it because you speculate something is fishy. Now, my parents used to forbid a lot of things when I was a kid, and I went ahead and did them anyways, and much later I regretted them and I realized ki okay, they weren't wrong, I was wrong, but their method of dealing with me was wrong. And now when it comes to my younger brother, they deal with things much more smartly and much more differently, and I'm really proud of their parenting skills when it comes to him. So what they do is they just sit down with him. First of all, they don't forbid anything, they tell him to take his own decisions, but once you take your decision, you are responsible for it, and if it is a bad decision, you will be responsible for that. Those are your actions, you will be facing the reactions. So sit down with your child, talk to them, have a really healthy discussion with them, discuss the pros, discuss the cons, and that is how your child is going to think 10 times before making a wrong decision. Now see, a teenage is the transition between childhood to adulthood, and when you are a 10-year-old, you are not taking any decisions yourself. Your parents are doing everything for you, so your actions don't have any consequences. But when you turn into a teen, you have certain responsibilities, and your actions might affect other people as well. So you have to sit down and have a healthy conversation with your teen and tell them that, see, if you do certain things, this and this is going to happen, and explain the consequences of their actions, and make them realize that mommy and daddy are not going to be there when you mess up. You have to clear your own messes, so that will to a point reduce their mischief and wrongdoings a great deal. So that is always a start. Mistake number two is negotiating or blackmailing. Now this is very common among parents these days. Let's take for example negotiating. I will give you a PlayStation 4 if you stop taking drugs. Now, chances are this could backfire, because your child will purposely go and do wrong things because he or she knows that, okay, if I do this, something wrong, I am going to get something in return from my parents, so that they think I'm going to stop doing this. So this leads your child to be very dependent on you, and chances are he or she is never going to be financially or mentally independent. They are always going to look to you for help. Now coming to blackmailing, suppose you tell your child that if you don't stop using drugs, I will stop giving you pocket money. Now when you say this, it could backfire majorly, because if you don't give them money, they are going to find some or the other way to buy those drugs, and yeah, now they are not only taking drugs, they are even doing something illegal in order to get that money to buy those drugs. So don't blackmail and don't negotiate. Mistake number three is being too lenient or ignoring the problem. Now this is not a problem in India, as most parents are always involved in their child's doings, but This happens sometimes when children are doing things right under your nose and you don't care, you don't pay attention, and sometimes you think ignoring will in fact help your child and your child will stop doing drugs. But this is not the case. I know you are busy, I can understand, but just throwing money at your child won't help them grow. You have to be there for them emotionally. Now once you have kids, your job is not your only priority. Your kids also should be a priority, maybe not your topmost, I can understand, but they should be a priority. And this is not only for mothers, this also includes fathers. Children need their fathers for emotional support. And when I was younger, both my parents used to work, and both my parents are super focused and very hardworking people. And my dad works abroad and he's not here most of the time, and I cannot even video call him because he's not allowed to video call, so we only talk through normal calls. But whenever I needed my parents, they have been there for me. They have provided the emotional support, they have helped me financially, they have looked after me, and yeah, that is what has kept me sane. And whenever I need somebody to talk to, my parents have been there for me. Of course, there were differences of opinion and they were not like this when I was younger. They were not that understanding, they were a bit conservative, but now they have changed a lot. They are learning, I am learning, and at the end of the day, that is what matters. And I know at the end of the day, if I need someone to talk to without being judged, my parents are going to be there for me. Last but not the least, mistake number 4 is disowning the child. Now sometimes this happens when parents have exhausted all possibilities of treatment, but sometimes very conservative parents disown their child in the very beginning when maybe they have just come to know that their child is doing drugs, which shouldn't be the case at all. I mean, if you're going to shut your child away and you're not going to talk to them, and you're just going to tell them you've disappointed me and I don't want to talk to you and I'm cutting all ties with you, they are going to feel very neglected and they will probably go and do it even more. Now I know what your child is doing is wrong, but that doesn't mean you have to cut all ties with them. If you don't have that kind of healthy relationship with your child, they are going to go around compensating for all the love and the support that they deserve from you. If you don't have open conversations with your child about drugs, about sex, about taboo things like that, then they are going to stumble upon other ways to find out about it, and which is going to lead them in the wrong direction. Have a safe environment at your home where your child can come up to you and ask you questions about anything and everything, and instead of shooing him or her away, try to answer all those questions in all honesty, and I'm sure your child is going to come up to you with the tiniest of things, and you are going to be their best friend, and eventually they won't hide anything from you. I am blessed to have my parents because I used to not tell my mother everything before, but over the years she has become my best friend, and I go up to her and tell her the tiniest of things about me, about my friends, and yeah, there are no secrets now. So that is the kind of relationship you need to strive for with your child, and I'm sure if you work hard and try to be honest with them, they are not going to hide things from you. And with that, we come to the end of this super long but I hope helpful video. Now you know the drill. Like this video if you found it helpful in any way. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, but a humble request, today's video has been a really long one, I know, but please share it with your friends and family, especially if you know that someone is going through this and needs help in order to deal with someone who's addicted to drugs. Please send it to them, and take care of yourselves, stay safe. I'll see you next time. Bye.